All right, today I'm going to be partnering with Fisherman's Source to bring you guys some holiday gift ideas. And this is going to be a list of plugs/gear that I personally use and really believe in. And things that if you haven't used before or you've maybe been on the fence of getting, this might be able to kind of give you a rough idea of something that you might want to try out and pick up at some point. So for the holidays, let's get going. All right, let's start it off with this. This is the Hogy Charter Grade Popper. This is one of the best loud popping plugs. This is great for fishing in estuaries when you have a lot of calm water and you want to make something that is going to splash and get the attention of a striped bass and mimics a ton of different bait from small little profile bait fish all the way up to a larger profile bait fish depending on how aggressively you work it. I mean, you can tell this is a loud plug. This thing freaking is noisy. So what I like to do when working this plug is I like to pop it once or two times by reeling slow up the slack and then giving it 2 twitches. What that's gonna do is make the plug pop like that on the surface, giving the presentation of an injured bait fish, and the striped bass just can't resist that. So the Hogy Charter Grade Popper is a great plug for striped bass. And of course, in the fall when you're fishing in blitzes, having something that's noisy and stands out from the bait that you're fishing into oftentimes can cull bigger fish out of a blitz. So that's why the Hogy Charter Grade Popper is a great choice for a topwater chugging style popper. The next is the Yusui Top Knock. Now, the Yusui Top Knock is a great little spook. This spook is the perfect size to mimic smaller profile baits such as sand eels or peanut bunker. And striped bass, when they're feeding on those smaller profiles, it can be really hard to, as we call, match the hatch when it comes to mimicking the bait fish that the fish are going to be feeding on, or that the striped bass rather, that will be feeding on. And this is a great little spook that can match a ton of small profile baits, but it also has good hardware on it, and it really does produce like big bass. It really can get big bass to come up and smash it. I've had many scenarios where there's tons of little fish around, you put on this and a great walk the dog action. The goal is to get this plug to walk side to side. If I can show you guys here, side to side like this on the surface of the water. It has a great noise to it. I mean, it's like a knocking noise, hence the name. And yeah, I mean, it's an awesome little plug. I highly suggest it. And if you're in the market for a small spook and you haven't fished this before, it's definitely a good one. It also casts like an absolute missile, which is super important when it comes to striped bass fishing. Sometimes we have wind blowing in our face and we need to get that plug a little further out there. This is a great option for that. So the Yusui Top Knock is on my list for holiday gifts, and if you're looking for a small spook, this is one of the best. Another Yusui plug, this is the Yusui Hydro Pencil. Now, the name pencil is a little bit, how should we say, like, it's not really a pencil, it's more of a spook. That's basically what I'm trying to say. This is what I like to do is work this a lot more like a spook. You can work it quickly, but here's the thing. It walks side to side like a spook. So it has more of a spook action than a pencil action, where pencils kind of slap on the surface of the water back and forth like that. This does wide sweeps back and forth. But the hydro part of this is what makes this super special. Now, this spook, you can work side to side like a spook, but then if you if you're twitching like you're walking the dog on a normal spook, so you're reeling slow, you're twitching, you're reeling up the slack, you're twitching, you're reeling up the slack, and now it's probably going to be more of some sort of an action like that when you're working your plug, and that's going to walk it back and forth like this. But if you do 2 twitches and then you do 1 long pull, what will happen is this will dive under the surface of the water and it will swim like that. And that is one of the most deadly things when it comes to catching really big bass. Now, a friend of mine, Robbie, absolutely kicked my butt one day when fishing this plug. I didn't know what he was doing, but what he was doing was pulling it under the water, and it was culling bigger fish and getting those bigger fish to strike when they were being really picky on sand eels. And that's a small bait fish. That's actually a fish, but it's very thin and slender, and it looks like an eel. So they got the name sand eel, and they're really hard to mimic, but for some reason, this plug is an absolute killer when they're on sand eels, and the ability to pull it under the water can get really picky bass to bite even when they're not hitting anything else. So this plug is a very powerful plug, and it does something that almost no other plug does, and that is work on the surface like with a beautiful walk the dog action, and then you can pull it under the water and it just kicks and swims perfectly. So highly suggest the Yusui Hydro Pencil. Very good plug. Also casts like an absolute missile. So Yusui plugs they're good ones. Musky Mania Dock. Now this is a classic big bass plug. It has a big profile, a big walk the dog action on this plug. I've caught some absolute monsters on big spooks like this. Spooks are probably one of my favorite ways to target big topwater bass. And then even furthermore, like a big spook like this is one of the most exciting things when you're walking this in and you have a real big bass chasing it in behind it. Oh man, there's almost nothing more fun than watching big bass knock your spook out of the water. And this plug has great walk the dog action. It has very nice wide sweeping action on the surface of the water. If the striped bass are feeding on large bait fish like Atlantic menhaden or mackerel, this can be a great match the hatch profile for that, as well as when bass are being, especially big bass, are not fully locked in and keyed in on feeding. Sometimes throwing a big spook like this, they just can't resist it and they'll come up and smash it. So this is like one of the best big fish plugs on the market, and highly suggest this if you haven't fished it yet. It's definitely one of the most fun plugs to fish for sure. Now for the S&S Smiling Bill Bucktail, this is a classic striped bass plug. Being a bucktail, you reel these nice and slow across the bottom like you would a soft plastic or anything like that. It has a great profile of a bait fish. They cast really well. They work really well in really big surf, and big fish just can't resist bucktails for whatever reason. And they've been one of those plugs that have been catching big fish forever. And yeah, I mean, bucktails are just, they're a very secure plug to fish, because if you think about it, when a bass bites down on it, there's almost nothing that it's like, there's nothing else for it to bite but the hook. And for the most part, when you hook a big fish on this, it stays pinned, which is really important. I like these because they have really good stout hooks on them. And yeah, I mean, it's a simple plug, but it just catches really big bass. You can fish them at night. You can fish them during the day. They're sweet. I like the Smiling Bill bucktails, and I like these S&S bucktails a lot. So yeah, definitely one that's going in my bag. It's going to be fishing along the bottom of the water column, which is a very important place to fish a lot of the time, because that's where the big bass are hanging out and they're waiting for an easy meal. So S&S Smiling Bill Bucktail, check that out. Another soft plastic, let's talk about the 5-inch no live bait needed Paddletails. These are amazing Paddletails. Great profile, matches a plethora of bait from herring to pogies to peanut bunker, anything like that. This will match the hatch too. It has a great big tail on it that's gonna thump away. You can work it really slow by reeling it right across the bottom of the water. They have a really stout hook, so similar to the bucktail, you're not gonna be worried about bending out, as well as you'll hook the fish. If it bites it, you're gonna probably hook that fish. And yeah, I mean, great profile, great action to this plug. And the way that the jig head is designed alongside the soft plastic itself, they're pretty durable, and you can catch a bunch of fish on them without them tearing and ripping up really quick. That's why I like the no live bait needed Paddletails a lot. They're a really awesome plug, highly suggest it. Let's move on to some gear. All right, these Van Staal pliers are awesome. I personally like to have the smaller pliers, because then I'm not carrying around a ton of weight, and I've had no issues unhooking fish, including really big fish and really big hooks with this plier. I really like how they have a super sharp line cutter on here. You can cut like your braided line without any tension with it. I mean, it's sweet to have that right there. Now, I wetsuit a ton, so I'm swimming in the water a lot with the striped bass and while I'm fishing. And so this gets wet a ton. And I mean, this plier is a couple of years old. Look at the springiness, the smoothness of it all. I mean, it is still really in good working shape. So I really highly suggest these pliers. They're an awesome gift, as well as if you haven't used them and you burned through tons and tons of, $25 pliers, and you're like, man, this is really, the money is stacking up here. That's why you go with one of these. They have a nice lanyard on it, so if you attach it to your belt or to your person in some way, you're not gonna lose it, and you're not worried about dropping the pliers when you're in the water. So yeah, I mean, they're very awesome pliers. I highly suggest them if you're in the market for a nice pair of fishing pliers. Let's talk reels. All right, first things first, the Van Staal VSX 150. This is one of the best reels on the market right now for surf fishing. There's so much to this, but let's just talk about performance right now. Now, as far as reels go, one of the most important things to me is durability, and the Van Staal basically does that to the max. Durability is the most important thing with all gear, but one of the hardest pieces of tackle that you have to keep from breaking on you, because it has the most moving parts, is your reel. So this reel is fully sealed, meaning you can reel this underwater, and it's not like for days and weeks and months and even all season, and you're not going to have this seize up or rust or anything like that. The drag is smoother on this Gen 2 reel. It has a tactile drag knob on it, so you can make micro adjustments while fighting a fish. If you need to tighten up a little bit, you're fighting a really big fish and it's going towards structure, and you want to tighten up a little bit, you can tighten up just a tiny little bit. It's going to give you that extra drag that you need. The other thing that they upgraded on this drag knob is it being the power knob, so there's a little bit more drag pressure you can put on it with this new reel. Now, there's a few things that I really like about this reel, and one of which is there's absolutely no back play in the reel at all. And a lot of reels, there's a little bit of back play in the reel, and the Van Staal, the way that it was machined, it's just absolute tank. So when you hook into the fish, there's going to be or you hook set into a fish, especially if you're fishing for something like a tarpon, which I've done. And any sort of drag slipping and or reel back coiling because you're hooked into that big fish, you can literally make or break whether or not you're going to hook that fish. So the fact that this reel doesn't have any of that, and it's straight power into the crank as soon as you do that, that's super important for me. And yeah, I mean, that alone, with being sealed and having that much power just built into the reel itself, is what makes this reel so special. So if you really want something special for your holiday, this is one of those things, and I highly suggest at some point picking one of these up. If you're a serious angler and you want to catch and fish all season long without your gear failing on you, I highly suggest the Van Staal VSX Gen 2. I personally like the 150 size reel. I fish a lot of 9-foot rods. It pairs really well with my 9-foot rods. I fish 30-pound braid. The amount of braid that you can put on this is really absurd. And so, yeah, I mean, even if you're going for crazy species that are not striped bass, this is definitely the reel for you. This is the Pen Slammer 3. The Pen Slammer 3 is a slightly less expensive option, but it is still pretty weather sealed. So if you get splashed by surf while you're fishing, or you inadvertently dunk it, this reel will hold up to inadvertent dunks and splashes, which is really important for me. I use this a ton in the spring and on the beaches when I'm fishing. If I want something really smooth, I mean, this reel, the smoothness of this reel is unbelievable for the price. It has insane drag, so you can really tighten this up and fight a big fish if you need to. I really like the handle on this too, it being very big and comfortable. It's easy to hold on to, and it's very smooth. It's one of those reels that if you want a reel that's just going to perform, and it's not super expensive, but it's going to perform, and even if you're in the elements and you're fishing every day, it's going to hold up all season for you. So the Pen Slammer is one of those reels that I love. So check this out if you want a really nice reel that's going to hold up all season long, very smooth, very good action on it. Just, again, very all-around workhorse of a reel. Highly suggest this. Let's get into rods here. So let's talk about, look at that. Would you look at that? This is the GSB reel. GSB, GSB. This right here. This rod is probably one of my favorite rods of all time. This is the Lamiglas GSB. This rod is an absolute beast. Now, not only does it have crazy backbone, is it crazy sensitive, and it's a moderate action rod, which I personally love fishing moderate action rods because of the style of fishing that I do. It's great for fishing live eels. It's great for fishing metal lips, and it is also great for fishing big topwater plugs like spooks, and you can fish pencils on it, no problem. I really love this rod. I'm just a big fan of it because you can cast anything with it, even though it says it's rated up to what it's rated up to. This thing can absolutely, I mean, it's an absolute tank. You can cast anything with it. It's so powerful, and it just withstands the test of time. It's an OG rod, and it's an OG rod that's been around for a long time, and people have been catching monster fish on this forever. So they made it really light. They made it really powerful. I highly, highly suggest this rod. It's a moderate action rod. It's great for live eels, as I said. And yeah, I mean, this thing is an absolute beast. Has crazy backbone, crazy amount of power on it. Everything about this rod rather, is an absolute, I mean, it's a workhorse of a rod. There's nothing, it's a really nice rod for the money of it. It's kind of a steal. I mean, this, even though it is a more upper range, more expensive rod, it's just gonna withstand punishment, and it can catch a ton of big fish. Highly, highly suggest this rod. So yeah, the GSB series are great. I fish everything from the 9-foot rods all the way up to the 10, 11-foot rods. They're just great for a wide range of things that I do, from live eeling, rig eeling, fishing big metal lip swimmers, fishing big spooks. They cover the spectrum and are very good. And for your place and for your specific area will depend whether or not you want a 9-foot rod, or I mean, it goes up to 13 feet, I believe. So whether or not you want some of the bigger end of this rod or the smaller end of this rod, I mean, this thing is an absolute beast. Highly, highly suggest. All right, another really nice, less expensive rod, but still a really nice rod that I've caught some absolute monster fish on is the Lamiglas Carbon Surf. Now, this rod is kind of wild because this rod is built on a blank that should be $500. I mean, the blank is unbelievable. The materials that they build this with is fantastic. So it has the power that you need to catch a big fish. And it's very sensitive, so you can still feel everything going on, but it being a less expensive option of a really, really high-end surf rod. It's a steal and an absolute workhorse. I fished this as my main rod for a whole season and absolutely loved it. So I highly suggest the Lamiglas Carbon Surf. Even if you want a backup rod in a certain size, this is definitely the rod for you. Highly, highly suggest this rod. It's a fast action rod, which makes it great for fishing soft plastics, pencil poppers, anything along those lines. It does an unbelievable job bucktailing, everything like that. It's very sensitive, and yeah, I mean, it's great when you're in big windy conditions and you need to feel where your plug is in the water, or you need to give action to your pencil popper. This being a nice fast action rod, it helps out a ton with that. Very, very happy with how this rod is, and highly suggested for holiday gift. Very, very awesome workhorse of a rod. Love this thing. Let's talk belts. So this is the ODM Surfwave belt. This is an unbelievable belt. It has a magnetic clip right here with Velcro. So it's really easy to put on. It won't fall off of you. They're very durable. I really like the adjustable Velcro strap for it. It's very easy to adjust the size of it. Sometimes you're wearing waders and you need it to be a little bit wider, or if you're just going with like a pair of shorts or wading pants or something and you want to make it a little bit narrower for your waist, you can do that too. Belts are very important for safety too if you're wearing waders, to have something around your middle. So if you do end up in the water, not as much water can go down your waders. So highly suggest getting a belt for that in general. You can hang your boga grips or your Van Staal pliers on the belt, no problem. You can even put on what I'm going to talk about in a second, being one of your, like a Bucktail pouch or something like that you can put on the belt. These are very awesome. If you haven't ever used a belt, it's really convenient, and I highly suggest picking one up because you can put all your stuff on you, and when you're fighting a big fish, and you have your pliers or something in your backpack that's on the shore and it's far away from you, it can be quite a hassle to go and unhook that fish and do it in a timely manner. So to have it all right here, you can deal with the fish right as you grab it, and it also is great for landing fish because you have your bogey grip right there. You can just quickly draw that and grab the fish by the lip. It's great for landing big bass, and definitely like something that if you haven't used a belt before, I really highly suggest the ODM Surfwave. It's a very nice, very durable belt, perfect for anything from wetsuiting to just using it around your waders or just as a convenience way to hold tackle that you're fishing with. Great all around belt. Very quick and easy and simple to use as well. Let's talk plug bags. So I really like the Gear Up 2-tube plug bag. When I'm fishing by myself, I don't need any more plugs than these two tubes right here. I can fit everything I need in this for both like daytime and nighttime. The few things I really like about it is in the front of this, there's a place where you can put bucktails right there, and you can also stick some bigger, like after you fill up this hole, both of these plugs, both of these tubes here with plugs, you can fit stuff around the sides of it right here. I like how there's a very large Velcro patch on the front of this, meaning when you lock this in right here, it's not going to open up at all if you're swimming or doing anything like that. You're not going to lose any plugs when you open it up. It has two flaps here, so if you open it up, you by accident get hit by a wave you didn't see coming, it will keep those plugs at just a little extra insurance of those plugs not flying out everywhere when you get hit by a wave by accident. The other thing I really like about this is it has a little bucktail pouch right here on the, or bucktail pork rind or jig strip holder on the side of it, which you can put jig strips and stuff in. Behind the back of this, there's two straps right here if you wanted to put this or attach it to your belt. I personally don't do that, but you can if you want. You can attach it to your belt. The other way you can attach it to your belt is it has these D-rings right here, which you can attach to your belt, or you can clip to you with a lanyard or something if you want to keep it from flying around as much. I personally don't do that very much. I use it almost as a satchel, and there's the adjustable strap right here for easy use. But yeah, this is a very durable bag. I've had it for many years. This is probably its 5th year, and I mean, it's a little salty right now because I fished it really hard, but yeah, nice, awesome plug bag. Highly suggest this. There's a lot of drainage on the bottom, so if water comes in, you'll get drainage pretty quick. Like, it's not going to stay filled up with water for very long. On the bottom of the tubes, there's also drainage holes in here, so if you want to rinse your plugs out, they're going to rinse out of water. No worries. You can put fresh water in there, and the salt water when you're swimming will wash out of these holes that are in the bottom of the tubes. Moving on, the Gear Up the Gear Up Bucktail Pouch here is awesome. Has a nice little clip here, so extra secured because it's going to be down on your waist. Sometimes when you're diving to the rocks, you might catch that on a rock. It's not going anywhere because you have that extra little clip there. If you're swimming with it too, it's definitely not going anywhere. Again, nice Velcro patch here to really seal it in place, and also these flaps on the lid here to keep it from any bucktails or soft plastics flying out of it. I have the one that has a bunch of bucktail pouches or like little flaps on it, so I can fit a ton of bucktails in here, as well as there's the center of it is open, so if you want to slide soft plastics or rig deals or anything in there, you can. It has a ton of drainage on it, so it doesn't stay that full at all. This is something I do attach to my belt, and I use these straps on the back to attach it to the belt. I mean, this thing looks brand new, and I've had it for years too. They're very durable, and yeah, Gear Up Surfcasting Bucktail Pouch. Highly suggest this too. Very good. Let's talk surf tops. Right here is the Storm R surf top. This is the Stormer USA surf top. This is a great surf top for fishing in really gnarly conditions. You can swim with it. You can get hit by giant waves. It's going to keep you dry. A few things that I really like about this is it has gaskets on each arm. So right here, this is a gasket that is underneath the sleeve of this this sleeve, I guess. So, and it has a little Velcro cinch too. So not only is this gonna keep your like completely tight around your wrist, but you can also tighten it up even more so that no water will ever get underneath there. And I'll tell you what, when you get hit by a big wave and there's a lot of momentum and force behind that, water does fly up your sleeves. So to be able to have this gasket and that cinch down is super important. It has another gasket so you can seal it to either your waders or your wetsuit or whatever you're using right here to keep you mostly dry in the water. That's a waist seal. You can cinch it tight with these little cinches right here that's on the waist. And it also has a big Velcro strap so that you can tighten that down even further around your waist. It has a front pouch that is not waterproof, but is great for putting liters, and other measurement tools in. And yeah, I'll put like a lot of my liters and stuff or extra line, I'll put in here. And this has drainage holes in the bottom, so it does fill up and drain out of water really quick. It won't hold any water. All right, moving up to the hood. Now the hood has cinches both in the front right here and on the top to cinch it down onto your hat even further if you're wearing a hat or just over your head in general. It'll cinch it way down. No wind or anything will blow in here and can blow down your neck or anything like that. Or even if you get hit by a wave, it will keep you completely dry and sealed around your face. This as well has neck gaskets, which will keep the water from coming in to your neck. And I mean, how many times have we all been hit in the face, or a wave has hit the rock and sprayed up and hit us in the face, goes down the back of your neck. It doesn't happen with this, so that is super sweet to have that neck gasket there. You can again cinch it down around yourself and the water is not getting in whatsoever. Very awesome. Stormer USA Surf Top, they are great. Stormer Surf Top, pretty sweet. All right, one of the most important parts of your tackle or gear or anything that I use are corker spikes. These are so important for me because the spikes let me grip onto the rocks that I'm walking on. I literally will not take people out onto the rocks if they don't have these. These are the most important piece of my gear, I think, by far, because it's almost impossible to fish on Cape Ann off the rocks without these. They grip on almost all rocks. And yeah, they're amazing. These ones in particular, this style, you can cinch over the top of any boot or shoe. And yeah, I mean, they're awesome. I always have a pair of these in my car. They've been well loved, and you can switch out any of the older rusted spikes out if they fall out at any point. So it's very versatile. Highly, highly, highly suggest picking some of these up if you don't have them already and you fish in some sort of a rocky area. It is literally life-changing, and I can't stress that enough. So the corker spikes, strap-on soles are absolutely amazing. Highly suggest picking them up for someone. Even if you want to just care about their safety, that's how important these are, because they are one of the most important pieces of gear that I have, period, for safety and otherwise. I mean, I can't say enough good things about the spikes that come on these corkers, because you will literally die without these on the rocks on Cape Ann. So very important to pick some of these up if you don't have any. All right, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please pick up all of the stuff that I just spoke about for holiday gifts in my description below. All the stuff will be linked. Go to Fisherman's Source. They have really quick shipping, and please enjoy your holidays. And hopefully we'll be fishing sooner rather than later. See you guys.